From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 7, streaming now.
Tonight, more than 24 hours after the chaos at the nation's capital, questions and criticism about the law enforcement response. I'm Amanda Starantino.
And I'm Mark Mullins. Scenes from Washington shocked the world on Wednesday. Trump supporters smashing the offices of elected officials, storming the House floor, breaking windows, and blatantly walking past Capitol Police while carrying state property. 4 people are dead. Several others are injured, and dozens have been arrested so far. The entire D.C. National Guard was eventually mobilized to help. But according to White House insiders, it was Vice President Mike Pence, not President Trump, who helped make it happen. The lingering question, why, when officials knew thousands of protesters planned to march in Washington, weren't more security measures put in place ahead of time?
It's clear to me that the police were outnumbered. And they apparently underestimated the strength and the level of violence in that crowd and overestimated their ability to control the crowd.
The Washington Metro Police Department is releasing photos of suspects they want to talk to about the violence on Capitol Hill. Police label the surveillance photos taken inside the Capitol of being persons of interest in unrest-related offenses. Among them is one man in Viking garb, already identified by CNN as Jake Angeli, who is known as the QAnon shaman.
After the Capitol was secured, members of Congress went back to the business of certifying Joe Biden's win in the presidential election. But as our Ray Steele tells us, not all of Indiana's delegation was on board even after the unrest.
We mostly knew before the events of Wednesday how Indiana's members of Congress would vote on the certification of Joe Biden's victory. But for one member, his opinion changed both before and after the riot at the Capitol carried out by supporters of President Trump. First in the House. Even after they were forced into and out of hiding due to the mob, 3 Republican House members from Indiana said they did not believe the electoral vote should be certified. They were Jackie Walorski from the 2nd District in northern Indiana, Jim Banks from Northeast Indiana's 3rd District, and Jim Bayard from the 4th District that covers the middle western part of the state. They objected to votes cast in both Arizona and Pennsylvania. Greg Pence from the 6th District and the Vice President's brother objected to Pennsylvania's vote only. Those objecting made allegations of voter fraud, even though no large-scale voter fraud took place. Then there was the vote in the U.S. Senate. Republican Senator Todd Young had been silent until the day of the vote. That's when he was caught on video arguing with Trump supporters near the rally that preceded the riot.
I value your opinion. I actually share your concerns. I share your conviction that President Trump should remain president. I share that conviction.
Yes.
The law matters with us.
I share that conviction. But the law matters.
It doesn't matter with the Democrats.
I took an oath under God. Under God. Okay. I took an oath. Do we still take that seriously in this country?
Senator Mike Braun, on the other hand, went back and forth many times. On December 2nd, Braun wrote an op-ed repeating claims of voter fraud that were not true. Then, after the Electoral College vote in the House, Braun acknowledged that Joe Biden would be the president-elect. Then, less than 1 week ago, another reversal. Even though he said it would be a protest vote, Braun said he would still object to the certification. Here he is signing his objection to Arizona's electoral votes at 12:43 p.m. That's less than an hour and a half before the pro-Trump mob broke into the Capitol. After the riot, Braun changed his mind again. Though he called for an investigation into election irregularities that have not been found, he withdrew his objection. Senator Braun then joined Senator Young in voting to certify Joe Biden as the next president. Working for you, Ray Steele, WRTV.
The number of reported bullying incidents is down in Indiana schools, but one state lawmaker says those numbers can be deceiving and more needs to be done to protect students. By law, private schools do not have to report bullying numbers to the State Department of Education. Representative Greg Porter says that needs to change. He filed House Bill 1185, which would require charter schools and private schools to adopt anti-bullying policies if they accept funding or financial assistance from the state. Porter's bill comes as statewide numbers show the number of bullying incidents reported by schools is dropping. 4,495 incidents reported in the 2019-2020 school year compared to 5,257 the year before. Last school year's numbers include March through June 2020, when many school buildings were closed due to COVID-19. Porter says he hopes the legislature understands they need to take action on bullying this session.
It's just simple, and I don't understand, Karen, why it's so hard for them to digest that you're receiving the money, you want the dollars, you just adhere to the rules that everyone else.
Schools are supposed to report physical, verbal, social, and electronic bullying. Schools will submit their data from this school year at the end of June, and the state will publish the new bullying numbers in August. Porter's legislation would also require schools that accept choice scholarships to adopt discipline rules that prohibit bullying. It has been assigned to the Education Committee.
Indianapolis recorded 245 total homicides in 2020, surpassing the 2017 previous high of 179. The director of engagement at Voices Cooperation, an arts-based youth center organization founded to enhance the lives of some of the most vulnerable youth in Indianapolis. They say they want to make sure kids know they are supported. Despite the violence, Voices ensures kids have a safe space with them. They affirm their experiences and emotions and work to end the cycle of hopelessness and abandonment. In a year highlighting such divide, Brandon Randall says it's time we look at why gun violence is happening and allow youth to share their voices.
A lot of people pass that external judgment. They see the news articles and they're like, well, these kids shouldn't have guns. These kids shouldn't be doing that. But you also have to understand some of these kids, and just to be honest, if they didn't have a gun, they would be the next breaking news headline. I have a student who his best friend was shot and killed in front of him, and he held him as he died and then found out that bullet was intended for him. How do you make that kid put his gun down?
Voices has a leadership development program where students go through 6 weeks of community engagement, identity and image, and conflict resolution topics. They are working to expand this program by going to different apartment complexes and community centers. If you know of any neighborhood or area that could use the resources, contact them online, and they'd love to organize a leadership program in your community.
On the north side tonight, a local community center is working to reduce violence by building stronger relationships with those who live in their neighborhoods, as well as police officers. The MLK Center, located at 40th and Illinois in the Butler-Tarkington community, is using grant money from the Central Indiana Racial Equity Fund to hire 3 junior community builders. The young men will join the center's outreach team. One of their goals will be to engage with youth, listen to them, and find out what they think the center should be doing to help improve the community.
Most of the kids in the neighborhood, they're going through a lot of the same things I was, like poverty or experiencing gun violence, seeing their friends die. So I feel like I just have I can relate to them a lot because we have like a lot of the same problems in this neighborhood.
I think it's important that youth on the ground have a relationship with officers who are patrolling their beats and can potentially arrest them, can potentially help them, and improving those relationships so that they can get to know each other's names, know what's going on, understand how policing works, how it should improve.
The Central Indiana Racial Equity Fund was just established in June of 2020 by Eli Lilly, the Lumina Foundation, and the Central Indiana Community Foundation. More than $2.2 million will go to advancing effective solutions to racial inequality in Indianapolis and in surrounding counties. WRTV is working for you and getting answers after reports of missing stimulus checks. Coming up next, new information tonight about checks sent to the wrong accounts.
Chamber465.com.
The latest now on the coronavirus and its impact on Indiana. The State Department of Health says another 7,344 Hoosiers have been diagnosed with COVID-19. 81 more Hoosiers have died. The total number of deaths is now 8,452. Since March, more than 546,000 Hoosiers have tested positive for COVID-19. More than 5.9 million tests have been administered in Indiana.
The Internal Revenue Service is responding to a flood of calls and concerns from taxpayers who are eager to get their second stimulus checks. Due to heavy demand, some people are getting error messages on the Get My Payment tool, which shows you the status of your stimulus payment. We're also hearing from taxpayers who say they got the first stimulus check, but the website shows they will not get a second round. WRTV is looking into those concerns, and we're still waiting to hear back from the IRS. If Get My payment reflects a direct deposit date and partial account information, then your payment is deposited there. If the website reflects a date your payment was mailed, it may take up to 3 to 4 weeks for you to receive the payment. Watch your mail carefully for a check or a debit card. The IRS says if the Get My Payment tool says payment status number not available, then you will not get a check. And instead, you need to claim the recovery rebate credit on your 2020 tax return. They're urging people to visit irs.gov rather than calling. Meanwhile, H&R Block and TurboTax customers say they are receiving their second stimulus payments after hitting roadblocks earlier this week. We told you the IRS sent some payments to the wrong accounts, including accounts used for fees when taxpayers filed their taxes in 2019. Many H&R Block and TurboTax customers say the problem has been fixed and they have received their money. TurboTax released a statement saying the error is being corrected and they have reconfirmed with the IRS that they have the correct banking information.
You may have noticed more art popping up in Indianapolis neighborhoods, sometimes in surprising places. WRTV's Cameron Riddle explains how you can embark on a scavenger hunt to find unexpected art, music, and creative works.
In the city of Indianapolis, art can be easily found downtown and in multiple arts districts, but now the Art and Seek program from Keep Indianapolis Beautiful is adding art to neighborhoods all across the city.
The neighbors who actually live there are going to be driving past it every day, walking past it every day, stopping and interacting with it, even more so than tourists.
Indy Art and Seek is a self-guided public art tour featuring more than 100 mini installations, performances, literary pieces, and individual artworks along urban streets, as well as 6 large-scale installations in green spaces throughout Indianapolis. Vocalist and storyteller Okara Imani is the artist behind an interactive sculpture located in Riverside Park, the same area where she was born and raised. While observing the art, her original song, A Riverside Story, is meant to be played from a phone, telling art observers the story of life and culture in the Riverside neighborhood.
It becomes the soundtrack of that moment. The primary sound piece that's throughout the entire song is actual sound from me sitting on a bench in Riverside Park.
The Art and Seek map spans numerous neighborhoods, all of them selected on purpose. Imani says she's glad to see art come to life in areas that often seem forgotten.
It's important, I think, for Black and Brown communities to be able to enjoy beautiful things that they didn't have to make themselves.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
Every piece of art can be found with an app from Art and Seek. You can find a link at WRTV.com.
Rain and some snow spiral south of us tonight. We'll talk about what changes arrive for the weekend coming up.
The National Football League wants teams to offer stadiums as coronavirus vaccination sites. Most NFL stadiums have been closed to the public all season. The NFL says teams should contact state and local health departments to use stadiums and practice facilities to serve as vaccination sites. Other sports are either doing it already or planning to use stadiums as vaccination sites.
After Selection Sunday in mid-March, we'll know which 68 NCAA teams are packing up their bags and racing to Indianapolis. But where will they stay and how will the city host the student athletes safely? Chris Gall with Visit Indy has those answers. He says all of the competing teams will stay in 2,500 hotel rooms in 5 downtown Indianapolis hotels. Each team will have an assigned hotel floor and meeting room. Even transportation will keep the teams separate.
Each will have their own transportation system to practice or to play and participate in a game. And each will go through very rigorous health and screening procedures each and every day. And so it's essentially a bubble.
It's an unprecedented plan to host all of the NCAA games in one location safely during a pandemic. At this point, the tournament is not open to spectators. However, Gall says that might change.
While we don't anticipate fans being able to watch these games, there is a chance the further we get into the spring and the closer we get to the championship games that there's a potential for a limited number of friends and family to be inside.
Of course, we will continue to follow this story as it develops. Gall says they are still working with the Marion County Health Department on exact COVID-19 safety practices, but competing teams will get screened for coronavirus each day. Kevin.
Well, we hope for the best. Hopefully there'll be some fans, and hopefully we'll see some sunshine as we move forward toward the weekend. It's been another cloudy day, and you see what it does to temperatures. You could pick any spot in Indiana randomly, and it'd be within a couple degrees of the mid-30s. That wind out of the northeast makes it feel on the cold side, around 10 miles per hour. Let me show you to the south what's around the Ohio River right now, not reaching the ground yet. I do think they'll have some very light snow along Interstate 64 and south with some minor accumulations. Maybe Bedford, Seymour could see a snow flurry or two. Here's a closer view of what we expect. We'll take this to about 1 in the morning, and you see a couple of flurries, maybe a raindrop or two around Seymour, North Vernon. As we put it in motion, then in the morning hours, more very light snow around Louisville and Interstate 64, as we mentioned. We're just on the northern periphery of a storm system that will stay mainly to the south and then push off to the east. Temperatures in the 20s. This typically is our coldest time of year, so these overnight lows would be colder because a lot of times you'd have snow on the ground, and if we didn't have the cloud cover, that would allow temperatures to fall off even more. Wind tomorrow, a cold north wind, 10 to 15 miles per hour. That'll make our 34-degree high feel colder. You have to layer up a little bit. But I think during the afternoon, we'll at least see some breaks in the cloud cover. That may be foreshadowing where we head for the weekend. 7 a.m. tomorrow, the southern system that I showed you that could bring a couple of snow flurries to the southern portion of the state tonight will push off to the east and be out of the area and set the stage for our partly sunny weekend. Temperature 34 as we get to Saturday, a little bit warmer than that on Sunday. There's your hourly forecast. A few more clouds hang in there early in the day Saturday, then we break up the cloud cover and go partly sunny. If you're looking for some warmth, Tuesday 38, then above 40 degrees Wednesday, maybe mid-40s as we get to Thursday. Something to look forward to. That's about 10 degrees above average for this time of year. We'll be right back with more news after this.
Download today.
American Airlines announced new safety measures following Wednesday's rioting in Washington, D.C. The airline reported incidents of passengers showing politically motivated aggression toward other passengers and crew. The incidents happened on several flights. American Airlines says it will stop serving alcohol on flights to and from Washington, D.C. and plans to increase staffing at airports in the D.C. area. The airline did not say how long the ban on alcohol will last, but said the change is a precautionary measure.
A small business owner is using his shop in Fortville to help Hoosiers who are serving their country. The owner of Maduro on Main Street says he wants to make sure our troops can enjoy a fine cigar if they would like, no matter where they are stationed. Larry Harnish has a box in his store that lets customers buy an extra cigar or two to send to our service members in combat zones and high-risk areas overseas. Last year, his customers helped to ship more than 500 cigars to the national organization Cigars for Warriors.
It's such a minor thing to do, and it means so much on the receiving end of it. So there's a lot of donations, a lot of people seeking things. I get that, but if you're ever in a cigar shop, not just myself, there's a couple others around central Indiana. If you see that Cigars for Warriors donation, and you got a couple extra bucks, it doesn't matter what the cigar is. It doesn't have to be a $40 cigar. It can be just a $10, $5 cigar, whatever. When they get that on that end and they get that care package from home, it's very appreciated.
Harnish says he ships the cigars to Cigars for Warriors every quarter in individual bags with humidor packs, so the cigars will stay fresh until they get to service members.
We're stuck in the 30s tomorrow. We'll start at 29, then move very little. Temperatures move maybe a handful of degrees from morning low to afternoon high, and again, maybe a couple breaks in the cloud cover in the afternoon. Mark and Amanda?
Thanks for making WRTV your choice for news.
We'll see you back here tonight at 11. Have a good evening.